According to the National Electrical Code, specifically Article 760.21b, fire alarm circuits are restricted from being installed in ducts, plenums, or other air handling spaces. If these circuits must pass through such spaces, they need to be encased in rigid metal conduit or electrical metallic tubing for protection. The National Fire Alarm and Signalling Code, Article 12.2.2.3, further emphasizes that fire alarm circuits must be installed within enclosures, raceways, or use other approved protective measures. Running a 40-2 shielded pair freewire directly through a cabinet and mounting a horn to the side of the cabinet would not meet these requirements. However, using carflex, which is a flexible conduit, offers a viable alternative. Article 760.24d of the National Electrical Code permits the use of flexible cords and cables if they are properly terminated at a terminal block or use another approved method before entering the enclosure. The National Fire Alarm and Signalling Code, Article 12.2.2.24, as a condition stating that flexible raceways used for fire alarm circuits must be listed for use with the specific type of cable being installed. Mounting the horn inside the back of the cabinet is generally not permitted, as the National Fire Alarm and Signalling Code, Article 12.2.3.2, specifies that audible notification appliances need to be positioned where the sound is clearly audible above ambient noise levels. The sound must not be obstructed by the building's structure or its contents. To ensure compliance and proper function of the fire alarm system, you must consider a few additional points. Firstly, the carflex conduit needs to be protected from physical damage that the cabinet could potentially cause. Secondly, the horn must be securely mounted to the cabinet to prevent it from becoming dislodged. Thirdly, you may need to get permission from the property owner to install the horn within their cabinet. It is important to verify that the carflex is listed for use with fire alarm systems and the specific cable type being used. Proper installation is crucial for the reliability of the fire alarm system. You should consult with the local authority having jurisdiction, also known as the AHJ, to clarify any local requirements. Ensure the ambient noise level of the location is not too high for the horn to be heard properly, following the decibel requirements as set by the local authority having jurisdiction. When working on fire alarm systems, it is essential to use the right tools and equipment. Some suggested tools and equipment would be wire strippers, cable cutters, conduit benders, a multimeter, a level, a drill with drill bits, a screwdriver set, a voltage tester, safety glasses, gloves, and a flashlight or headlamp. Using the correct tools helps ensure that the job is done safely and accurately. When dealing with fire alarm systems, always prioritize safety. Before starting any work, turn off the power to the circuit you will be working on. Use a voltage tester to confirm that the power is off before touching any wires. Wear safety glasses and gloves to protect yourself from electrical shock and other hazards. Always follow the manufacturer's instructions for installing and wiring fire alarm devices. Double check all connections to ensure that they are tight and secure. Do not work alone. Have someone nearby in case of an emergency. Proper grounding and bonding is also very important. Grounding provides a path for fault current to flow back to the source, which helps to protect people and equipment from electrical shock. Bonding connects all metal parts of the electrical system together, which helps to reduce the risk of electrical shock. When working on fire alarm systems, be sure to properly ground and bond all metal parts of the system. Grounding and bonding requirements vary depending on the specific application. Consult the National Electrical Code and local codes for specific requirements. When troubleshooting fire alarm systems, start by checking the basics. Make sure that the system is powered on and that all of the devices are properly connected. Check the batteries to make sure that they are fully charged. Use a multimeter to check the voltage and current in the system. If you find any problems, troubleshoot the specific device or circuit that is causing the problem. When replacing fire alarm devices, be sure to use the correct replacement parts. Use a compatible device. Use the same type of wire. Follow the manufacturer's instructions for replacing the device. Before putting the system back into service, test it to make sure that it is working properly. The National Fire Protection Association codes are updated regularly. It is important to stay up to date on the latest requirements. You can purchase the latest versions of the codes from the NFPA website or from other retailers. If you are unsure about any aspect of fire alarm system installation, maintenance, or troubleshooting, consult with a qualified electrician or fire alarm technician. In general, cabinets may affect the audibility of the horn. The horn should be installed in a location where the sound is not obstructed. The horn should be tested after installation to ensure that it is audible throughout the protected area. You must follow the manufacturer's instructions for testing the horn. A fire alarm system should be inspected and tested at least once a year. It is important to keep accurate records of all inspections and tests. These records can be used to identify potential problems and to track the performance of the system over time. The installation must meet accessibility requirements for inspection, testing, and maintenance. This includes providing sufficient space around the devices and equipment to allow for easy access. The height of the devices and equipment should be within the reach of the maintenance personnel. The location of the devices and equipment should be clearly marked. It is important to choose the right type of fire alarm cable for the application. The cable must be rated for the voltage and current of the circuit. The cable must be suitable for the environment in which it will be installed. The cable must be properly supported and protected from physical damage. When installing fire alarm cable, be sure to follow the manufacturer's instructions. Do not exceed the maximum bend radius of the cable. Do not damage the cable insulation. Be sure to properly terminate the cable at the devices and equipment. When terminating fire alarm cable, be sure to use the correct connectors and tools. Be sure to tighten the connections securely. Be sure to protect the connections from corrosion. When connecting fire alarm devices, be sure to use the correct wiring diagram. Be sure to connect the wires to the correct terminals. Be sure to tighten the connections securely. Be sure to protect the connections from corrosion. Power limited fire alarm circuits must be wired using specific types of cable that are designed to limit the amount of energy that can be delivered to the circuit in the event of a fault. Non-power limited fire alarm circuits do not have these restrictions. The type of cable that is required for a fire alarm circuit depends on the voltage and current of the circuit, as well as the environment in which the cable will be installed. Fire alarm systems must be properly maintained to ensure that they are working properly. Regular maintenance includes inspecting the devices and equipment, testing the system, and replacing batteries. It is important to keep accurate records of all maintenance activities. If the fire alarm system is not working properly, it is important to troubleshoot the problem and make the necessary repairs. Do not attempt to repair the system yourself unless you are a qualified electrician or fire alarm technician. The National Electrical Code and National Fire Alarm and Signaling Code provide detailed requirements for the installation, maintenance, and testing of fire alarm systems. These codes are designed to protect people and property from fire. If you are involved in the installation, maintenance, or testing of fire alarm systems, it is important to be familiar with these codes. Local codes may have additional requirements for fire alarm systems. Be sure to check with your local authority having jurisdiction to determine what the requirements are in your area. The requirements for installing fire alarm systems in existing buildings may be different than the requirements for installing fire alarm systems in new buildings. Be sure to check with your local authority having jurisdiction to determine what the requirements are in your area. When working on fire alarm systems, it is important to follow all safety precautions. Be sure to turn off the power to the circuit before working on it. Wear safety glasses and gloves. Work in a well-ventilated area. Use the proper tools and equipment. If you are not comfortable working on fire alarm systems, hire a qualified electrician or fire alarm technician. The National Fire Protection Association also provides training and certification programs for fire alarm technicians. These programs can help you to develop the skills and knowledge that you need to install, maintain, and test fire alarm systems safely and effectively. It's also crucial to consider the Americans with Disabilities Act, often shortened to ADA, standards, especially concerning the placement and audibility of fire alarm notification appliances. The ADA requires that fire alarm systems be accessible to people with disabilities, including those who are deaf or hard of hearing. This means that the system must include both audible and visual alarms. The visual alarms must be located in areas where they can be easily seen, such as hallways, common areas, and individual rooms. The audible alarms must be loud enough to be heard above ambient noise levels, but not so loud as to be painful. The ADA also requires that fire alarm systems be designed to provide sufficient time for people to evacuate the building in the event of a fire. This means that the system must be designed to provide early warning of a fire, and it must be designed to provide clear and concise instructions on how to evacuate the building. When designing and installing fire alarm systems, it is important to consider the needs of people with disabilities. By following the ADA standards, you can ensure that the system is accessible to everyone. When considering the placement of audible alarms in a cabinet situation, remember that the cabinet itself could dampen or distort the sound, making it less effective for individuals who are hard of hearing. The choice of carflex needs careful consideration. While it provides flexibility in routing wires, it must be properly supported to prevent sagging or damage. Also, ensure that the carflex is securely connected to the horn's enclosure and to the fire alarm system's wiring. The integrity of these connections is crucial for maintaining the system's reliability. Always refer to the specific listings and approvals for both the carflex and the fire alarm cable to ensure they are compatible and suitable for use in fire alarm systems. Some flexible conduits may not be appropriate for fire alarm applications due to their fire resistance or other characteristics. Consider the potential for future modifications or additions to the fire alarm system. Plan your wiring and conduit runs in a way that allows for easy access and expansion if needed. This can save time and money in the long run. Before commencing the project, it is advisable to have a detailed discussion with the local fire marshal or building inspector to get their input and approval. Their insights can be invaluable in ensuring that the installation meets all applicable codes and standards. Remember that fire alarm systems are life safety systems, and their proper installation and maintenance are of paramount importance. By adhering to the relevant codes, standards, and best practices, you can help ensure the safety of building occupants in the event of a fire. When selecting a location for the fire alarm horn, consider the layout of the room or area. Choose a location that will allow the sound to propagate effectively throughout the space, reaching all occupants. Avoid placing the horn in areas where it is likely to be obstructed by furniture or other objects. Different types of fire alarm horns produce different sound patterns. Some horns emit a directional sound, while others emit an omnidirectional sound. Choose a horn with a sound pattern that is appropriate for the space in which it will be installed. Before installing a fire alarm horn, test it to ensure that it is working properly. Use a sound level meter to measure the sound output of the horn. Make sure that the sound output meets the requirements of the applicable codes and standards. Consider the aesthetic impact of the fire alarm horn. Choose a horn that is aesthetically pleasing and that blends in with the surrounding decor. Do not paint or otherwise alter the appearance of the horn, as this could affect its performance. Regularly inspect the fire alarm horns to ensure that they are in good working order. Look for signs of damage or wear. Test the horns periodically to make sure that they are still producing an adequate sound output. The ambient noise level of the environment can significantly affect the audibility of a fire alarm horn. The higher the ambient noise level, the louder the horn needs to be in order to be heard. When selecting a location for a fire alarm horn, consider the ambient noise level of the area. Choose a location where the horn will be clearly audible above the background noise. If the ambient noise level is too high, you may need to install multiple horns or use a horn with a higher sound output. Some fire alarm horns are equipped with adjustable sound output levels. This allows you to adjust the volume of the horn to suit the specific environment in which it is installed. Use a sound level meter to measure the sound output of the horn and adjust it to the appropriate level. The proper mounting height of a fire alarm horn can affect its audibility. Mount the horn at a height that will allow the sound to propagate effectively throughout the space. Avoid mounting the horn too high or too low, as this could reduce its audibility. Fire alarm horn should be mounted securely to a stable surface. Use appropriate mounting hardware and techniques to ensure that the horn is firmly attached. Do not mount the horn to a surface that is likely to vibrate or move, as this could damage your horn or reduce its audibility. Before installing a fire alarm horn, consult the manufacturer's instructions for specific mounting recommendations. The location of other fire alarm devices, such as smoke detectors and pull stations, can affect the placement of fire alarm horns. Coordinate the placement of all fire alarm devices to ensure that the system is effective and meets all applicable codes and standards. When installing a fire alarm horn, consider the potential for future changes in the building or environment. Choose a location that will still be effective even if the building layout or ambient noise level changes. If necessary, install additional horns or relocate existing horns to ensure that the system remains effective. Fire alarm systems are designed to protect lives and property. Proper installation and maintenance of fire alarm horns are essential to ensure that the system is effective. By following the guidelines and recommendations in this document, you can help to ensure that fire alarm horns are properly installed and maintained, and that they provide adequate warning in the event of a fire.